In the heart of the universe, where time seemed to fold in on itself and the light of a billion stars merged into a brilliant sea of cosmic radiance, the Galactic Council gathered. The Council's chamber was an enormous structure built into the core of a dying star, protected by vast fields of energy that bent reality itself to keep it stable. The architecture was ancient, forged from materials no civilization could replicate today. Inside, there was silence, a silence so deep it was felt more than heard, like the weight of eons pressing down. The council was made up of the galaxy's oldest and wisest beings, representing thousands of civilizations from the farthest reaches of space. Some were biological, others mechanical, and still others were forms of life that defied simple categorization. Many had witnessed the birth of stars and the extinction of entire worlds. In the center of the chamber floated the celestial orb, a shimmering sphere of pure energy that represented the balance of the galaxy. It pulsed softly, in harmony with the collective will of the council. When it grew dim or trembled, it was a sign that something threatened that balance. And today, it trembled. The meeting was called by Valdar, the Elder of Stones, a being whose body had long since become one with the mountains of his world. His voice resonated with the rumble of ancient tectonics, deep and slow, as though he measured each word against the weight of eternity itself. Counselors, Valdar began, his eye-smooth black orbs set into his craggy face, casting a heavy gaze around the room. We are gathered today to address a growing disturbance. A species from a small, unremarkable planet in the outer arm of the Milky Way. The humans. The word hung in the air like a distant threat, unfamiliar to some but already known to many. The council had debated them before, always with a sense of unease. But today, the tremble of the celestial orb spoke louder than any of their previous discussions. A shimmering being of pure light and sound, known as Alios, representing the Vari collective, a race of beings who had evolved beyond physical form, drifted forward. The humans. They are but a young species. Barely a blip in the grand span of time. What could they do to disturb the balance? Valdar's voice rumbled once again, deeper now. They are young, yes. But their growth is unlike any we have seen before. In a span of mere millennia, they have developed technologies that rival even the oldest civilizations among us. They consume resources at an alarming rate, they divide themselves with conflict, and their curiosity is relentless. They are dangerous because they do not yet understand their place in the universe. A low murmur spread through the chamber, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Some, like Alios, saw humans as little more than a curiosity, while others, including Valdar, viewed them as a ticking time bomb. An ancient, crystalline being named Kiara spoke next. Her voice was like the ringing of delicate glass. I have seen their rise in the energy waves that ripple through the cosmos. Their world was once on the verge of destruction by their own hands, but they always find a way to survive. Even in chaos, they adapt. They evolve quickly. It is as though their world breeds them to survive catastrophe. A murmur of agreement rose from some of the other counselors. There was no denying that humans were resilient, adaptable, and resourceful. But with those traits came unpredictability, and unpredictability was a threat to the order the council had worked so hard to maintain. Valdar, sensing the division in the chamber, raised a massive stone hand. Let me show you why they are dangerous, he said, and with a thought, the celestial orb pulsed brighter. From its core, a projection formed in the airy vision of Earth and its turbulent history. The council watched in silence as images unfolded. They saw the humans rise from primitive hunters to city builders, then to industrial empires. But they also saw their wars, countless wars spanning centuries. They saw how humans fought over resources, ideology, and territory, often on a planetary scale. They witnessed the atomic fire of the 20th century, when humans nearly wiped themselves out with their own weapons. They saw the rapid advance of their technology, driven by conflict and competition, and the spread of their influence into space. They are not bound by harmony like the rest of us, Valdar continued. Their lifespans are short, and this drives them to seek quick, often destructive solutions. They burn bright and hot, consuming everything in their path, leaving destruction in their wake. And now, they look to the stars. The final images showed the launch of human-made probes, ships leaving Earth's orbit, and the establishment of colonies on neighboring planets. The humans, it seemed, had become restless with their homeworld and were beginning to venture out into the galaxy. The very idea sent a ripple of concern through the chamber. They will come for the stars, Valdar warned. Their greed, their ambition, and their need for conquest will not be satisfied with Earth alone. It is only a matter of time before they encounter one of our own civilizations. And when they do, they will not ask for peace. They will take. A silence fell over the chamber as the implications settled in. The Council had seen species like this before, though rarely. In every case, such species had brought chaos to the galaxy, disrupting the balance that had taken eons to build. The humans, it seemed, were on the verge of becoming such a species. But not all were convinced. "I believe you underestimate them," spoke Elitan, a tall, sleek insectoid with iridescent wings that shimmered in the light of the orb. "Yes, they are volatile. Yes, they are young. But they are also capable of great things. We have seen their capacity for creativity, for innovation, for cooperation when faced with a common goal. They have survived despite the odds. Perhaps they could be guided." Valdar's stony face showed no emotion, but his tone darkened. "Guidance requires willingness to listen. And humans have shown us no indication that they will listen to anything but their own desires. They are reckless. If they were to gain access to our technology, to our knowledge of the galaxy, they could cause untold destruction." Elitan did not flinch. "Perhaps. But should we not try? They are, after all, like any of us once were, young, brash, full of potential." The chamber buzzed with debate. Voices rose, some agreeing with Elitan's idealism, others siding with Valdar's caution. The celestial orb flickered uneasily, as though reflecting the discord within the council. Finally, a decision was reached. The warning would be sent out, loud and clear, to all civilizations under the Council's guidance: humans are dangerous. Do not engage. Do not invite them into the galactic fold. And with that, the fate of humanity was sealed, though they knew nothing of the decision made among the stars. As the meeting adjourned, Valdar stood silent, watching as the counselors dispersed. His ancient eyes were fixed on the orb, which now trembled with a foreboding glow. He knew it was only a matter of time before humans broke free from their small world and came for the galaxy. And when they did, there would be no stopping them. The Council had warned the galaxy about humans. But Valdar feared they hadn't acted soon enough. The Zalok exploration vessel Draka drifted silently through the void of space, cloaked by technology that made it all but invisible to the primitive sensors of the humans on Earth. The ship itself was a marvel of engineering, a sleek, insectoid design that mirrored the form of its creators, made from living metal that pulsed faintly with the energy of the ship's core. Inside, the Zalok crew moved with precision and quiet determination, preparing for what they had deemed a groundbreaking mission. Larka, the expedition's lead scientist, stood on the bridge, her compound eyes reflecting the blue glow of Earth as it filled the viewports. She had spent her entire life studying emerging civilizations, but no species had intrigued her quite like the humans. Their rapid technological advancement defied the slow, methodical pace of most galactic species. To her, they were an anomaly, one that needed to be understood, not feared, despite the warning from the Galactic Council. "Commander, we are in orbit and cloaked," reported Yeltor, the ship's chief navigator. His elongated, armored form clicked softly as he shifted in his seat. "The humans have not detected our presence." "Good," Larkar replied, her voice a soft hiss. Her mandibles twitched in excitement. "Begin passive scans. I want to understand as much as we can before we make contact." As the crew worked, data began flooding into the ship's systems. They monitored everything: radio signals, satellite feeds, internet communications, even the electromagnetic signatures of human cities. It was a chaotic symphony of information, a dizzying array of voices, images, and data streams that spoke to the complexity and intensity of human civilization. "They are so noisy," murmured Kthar, the ship's communications officer, his antennae flicking in irritation. "Their world is filled with incessant transmissions. How do they think in all this chaos?" Larka smiled slightly, her mandibles clicking in amusement. "It is part of their nature, Kthar. Their minds are fast, adaptable. They thrive in environments where most of us would be overwhelmed. We must not judge them by our standards." As they continued to gather information, Larka's fascination only deepened. Despite the violence and division that permeated human history, there were also remarkable moments of ingenuity and collaboration. They had built vast cities, created intricate art, explored their own planet's limits, and were now reaching into the stars. Humans were capable of great destruction, yes, but also of great creation. But there was one thing the data could not explain: the human drive. What made them push beyond their limits, despite the danger, despite the odds? What was it that made them reach for the stars when most species remained content on their homeworlds for millennia? "We must make contact," Larka said finally, turning to her crew. "We need to understand them firsthand. We will select a small, isolated group, one that can be observed safely, without drawing too much attention. Prepare for descent." Yeltor looked uneasy. "Commander, are you certain?" The Council's warning was explicit. They do not trust these humans. Engaging with them could be risky. "The Council is afraid of what they do not understand," Larka replied firmly. "We are explorers. It is our duty to learn. We cannot let fear dictate our actions." Yeltor hesitated for a moment, then nodded, turning back to his console. "As you command, Commander." The Draka descended through Earth's atmosphere, slipping silently through the clouds above the American Midwest. It was a region of rolling plains and dense forests, with few signs of human habitation, perfect for an initial encounter. Larka had identified a small group of humans camping in the wilderness, far from the prying eyes of civilization. The landing was seamless, the ship touching down in a clearing surrounded by towering trees. The humans, just 3 of them, were gathered around a campfire a short distance away, completely unaware that they were being watched. Larka studied them through the ship's sensors: a male and 2 females, all relatively young by human standards. They were talking and laughing, their voices carrying through the night air. "This will be our opportunity," Larka said, adjusting the controls of her holodisguise system. With the technology, her insectoid features would be masked, projecting an image that would make her appear human to their primitive eyes. "I will approach them alone. Maintain cloaked status and be ready to extract me if necessary." The crew nodded, watching with a mix of anxiety and curiosity as Larka stepped into the teleportation chamber. A moment later, she was outside, standing at the edge of the forest, her body cloaked in the appearance of a human woman in her mid-30s, with soft features and dark hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She adjusted her clothing to resemble the casual, outdoor gear worn by the campers, then began her approach. The humans were still gathered around the fire, completely unaware of her presence until she was almost upon them. The male, Sam, noticed her first. His eyes widened in surprise, and he nudged the woman next to him. "Hey," Sam said, squinting into the darkness. "Did you guys hear something?" The others looked up, startled. The woman closest to him, Ellie, stood up and took a cautious step toward Larka. "Who's there?" she called out. "We didn't expect anyone else out here." Larka smiled, attempting to replicate the human expression of friendliness she had observed in their communications. "Hello," she said, her voice smooth but slightly off, as though she hadn't quite mastered the nuances of human speech. "I am sorry to intrude." I was hiking nearby and got a bit lost. I saw your fire and thought I might ask for directions. Sam exchanged a glance with Ellie. Hiking at this time of night? That's kinda weird, don't you think? He muttered under his breath. Larka's smile faltered for a moment. Her disguise was working, but something in the way the humans watched her felt off. They were suspicious. She needed to gain their trust quickly. I wasn't planning on being out this late, she said, attempting to mimic their casual tone. Got a bit turned around. Do you mind if I sit by your fire for a moment? It's gotten quite cold. Ellie hesitated but finally gestured to the fire. Yeah, sure, I guess. You okay? You look a little off. Before Larka could respond, there was a sudden flash of light in the sky, followed by a distant rumble. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, and the humans jumped to their feet in alarm. What the hell was that? Sam shouted, looking up at the sky. Larka's internal sensors blared a warning. Something was wrong. She tapped into the ship's communication feed. Commander, Yeltor's voice crackled in her ear. We're detecting high-energy signatures in the area. Military craft are approaching your location. They've detected us. Larka's mind raced. How could this have happened? They had taken every precaution to remain hidden. But it was too late. The humans had seen her, and now the approaching aircraft were drawing closer by the second. Retreat to the ship, Yeltor commanded urgently. We're preparing to take off. The humans, still unaware of the full danger, watched as the lights in the sky grew brighter, the rumble of engines filling the air. But before they could react, Larka turned and fled into the forest, her disguise flickering as she sprinted back toward the ship. Behind her, she heard the humans shouting, but their voices were quickly drowned out by the roar of approaching military vehicles. Larka barely made it back to the Draka before the humans' forces arrived. The ship, still cloaked, lifted off silently and disappeared into the night sky. Below, the humans were left with only confusion and fear, their first encounter with an alien species marked not by peace, but by suspicion and violence. As the Draka sped away from Earth, Larka stood on the bridge, her thoughts racing. She had come to learn about the humans, to understand them, but now they were on high alert, their military already mobilizing against the unknown threat. The Council's warning had been clear, but she hadn't believed it. Now she had to face the reality that the humans were more dangerous and more paranoid than she had ever imagined. The Horizon Initiative was not a name known to the public. Operating under the cover of national security, it was a secretive branch of Earth's most advanced military programs and organization dedicated to one goal: detecting and neutralizing extraterrestrial threats. And tonight, they had detected something unprecedented. Colonel Jacob Hayes, the head of the initiative, stood in the command center, staring at the holographic display that dominated the room. His team had been monitoring the anomaly for hours now, ever since a brief spike in the planet's atmospheric readings had triggered their alert systems. What they saw next had raised every red flag. The screen showed a cloaked object descending through the upper atmosphere, faintly visible only through the most advanced detection technology Earth had to offer. Though the object was largely invisible, it cast distortions across the electromagnetic spectrum, and to the Horizon Initiative, that was as good as a neon sign. It's there, Hayes said quietly, his voice rough and worn from years of service. We have an unknown craft landing in Sector 12. Mobilize all units. I want every drone, every satellite, and every asset we have monitoring that area. His second-in-command, Major Elena Ross, a sharp, no-nonsense officer with a background in aerospace engineering, nodded grimly. Already done, sir. We've dispatched recon drones and have tactical teams en route. Do we engage? Hayes paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing as he considered the data. The object, whatever it was, had landed in a remote area. If it was alien, and if it had hostile intentions, this could be the most significant encounter in human history. They couldn't afford to hesitate, but they also couldn't afford to provoke unnecessary conflict. Not yet, Hayes said finally. We don't know what we're dealing with. Keep it in sight, but don't engage unless they make the first move. Ross nodded and tapped a series of commands into her console, directing the team's efforts. In minutes, drones equipped with the latest stealth technology were circling the area, feeding real-time video back to the command center. On the screens, the scene unfolded. Deep in the forest, a small group of civilians, 3 campers, unaware of the vast military apparatus now watching them, had gathered around a campfire. But they weren't alone anymore. Sir, Ross said, her voice tight with urgency, we've got visual on an unidentified subject approaching the civilians. Hayes leaned in closer, eyes locked on the screen. The figure walking toward the humans looked like a woman, but something about her was off. The way she moved, the flicker of her image when the firelight hit her, it triggered an instinct in Hayes, a gut feeling honed over decades of military experience. Enhance that, Hayes ordered. The image zoomed in, and the figure's details became clearer. Her appearance was human enough, but her body seemed to shimmer, as if it were a projection layered over something else. Hayes had seen enough alien tech reports to know what he was looking at. It's a disguise, he said, his voice low and dangerous. That's not human. The realization hit the room like a shockwave. Ross turned to Hayes, her eyes wide. What are your orders, Colonel? Prepare for engagement, Hayes said, his tone hardening. But hold fire until I give the command. We need to know what it's doing, what its purpose is. I want this thing alive if possible. As they watched, the alien figure, now confirmed to be non-human, continued to interact with the campers. Hayes clenched his jaw, frustrated by the slow pace of the encounter. He needed answers, and he needed them now. Just then, an alert flashed across the screen. A new energy signature had appeared, faint, but growing stronger. It was coming from the alien ship, which had been hidden from view until now. Colonel, Ross said urgently, we've got power readings spiking from the object. It's about to move. Before Hayes could respond, the situation escalated. On the ground, Larka sprinted through the dense forest, her humanoid disguise flickering as the hollow system struggled to maintain coherence. Her mind raced as she calculated the best way to return to the Draka without leading the humans directly to it. But it was too late. The sudden appearance of military drones overhead confirmed her worst fear. The humans had detected her ship, and they were preparing for an encounter. She activated her communicator. Yell Tor, prepare for immediate extraction. The humans are mobilizing, hostile intent confirmed. The response crackled through her earpiece. Understood, Commander. Cloaking systems are still active, but we're being tracked. If they get a lock on us, we won't be able to evade. Larka cursed in her native Zalok tongue. The humans' technology, while primitive by galactic standards, was surprisingly effective at detecting anomalies. It seemed they were far more prepared for extraterrestrial contact than she had anticipated. As she neared the Draka's landing site, the sound of approaching helicopters filled the air, their blades chopping through the night with ominous intent. Larka could sense the electromagnetic fields of more drones closing in, small, fast machines, scanning for anything out of the ordinary. She had moments at best. She reached the ship just as Yell Tor triggered the teleportation sequence, her body dissolving into particles and reassembling inside the craft. As soon as she materialized on the bridge, she barked orders. Activate the anti-detection field, full power. We need to get out of here, now. Yell Tor complied, his claws moving swiftly across the controls. The ship hummed to life, its systems flickering as the cloaking field intensified. The Draka lifted off, rising silently above the treetops. But the humans were already closing in. Back at the Horizon Initiative. Colonel, we've got movement. Ross called out, her voice cutting through the tense silence. The object is ascending, fast. Hayes' eyes darted to the screen as the previously hidden alien craft became faintly visible, a distortion in the night sky. It was trying to escape. Engage! Hayes barked. Send the intercept teams in. I want that craft grounded. Immediately, missiles launched from the helicopters, streaking toward the fleeing ship. At the same time, ground-based EMP cannons locked onto the craft, ready to disable it. The alien ship accelerated, but the missiles were faster. Explosions lit up the sky as the missiles detonated near the ship's cloaking field. The Draka shuddered violently as its systems struggled to maintain integrity. Alarms blared throughout the ship as Larka and her crew fought to keep control. They're firing on us. Yeltor hissed, his mandibles clicking in frustration. Shields holding, but barely. We need to jump to light speed now, or they'll shoot us down. Larka knew he was right. The humans had reacted faster and more aggressively than she had expected. The Council had warned her, but she had been too eager to dismiss their concerns. Prepare for jump, she ordered. Get us out of their atmosphere now. Yeltor initiated the jump sequence just as another barrage of missiles streaked toward them. The Draka's engines roared to life, and in a flash of energy, the ship disappeared into the night sky, leaving behind only the faintest trace of its passage. Aftermath. Colonel Hayes watched the screens, his fists clenched as the alien craft vanished from view. The room fell into a tense silence, the only sound the hum of computers and the faint chatter of comms from the field units. They got away, Ross muttered, her voice tinged with frustration. Hayes exhaled slowly, his mind already racing ahead. The alien ship had escaped, but not without leaving traces, energy signatures, telemetry data, and, most importantly, visual confirmation that something extraterrestrial had landed on Earth. They may have gotten away, Hayes said quietly, but now we know they're out there. And they know we're not going to let them come without a fight. He turned to face his team. Increase our surveillance. I want every inch of this planet monitored. If they or any others come back, we'll be ready. The Horizon Initiative had encountered its first alien presence. And though the Draka had escaped, the world had changed forever. The humans, always driven by fear and curiosity, were now on high alert. They didn't know when the aliens would return, but one thing was certain, Earth would be ready for war. Far beyond Earth, in the cool silence of space, the Zalok starship Draka drifted through the stars, licking its wounds from the violent encounter with humanity. The ship had narrowly escaped destruction, but Larka knew the consequences of their failed mission were far-reaching. As she sat in the dim glow of the control room, watching the stars blur into streaks as they moved at light speed, her mind swirled with questions. What had gone so wrong? The humans were not what she had expected. Their paranoia had exceeded even the dire warnings of the Galactic Council. The thought that a species could be so quick to interpret any unknown presence as a threat unsettled her. But even more alarming was their readiness. Earth was more prepared for contact than the galaxy had imagined. They had advanced weapons, and they were not afraid to use them. As the ship soared away from Earth, a transmission came in from the Galactic Council, its signal buzzing through the ship's encrypted channels. The Draka's communication systems buzzed with urgency. Larka steeled herself, knowing that she would have to explain the consequences of her decision. The holographic form of Valdar, the Elder of Stones, materialized before her, his towering stone body flickering with the static of interstellar distance. His eyes black and ancient bore into Larka as though he had already anticipated everything that had transpired. You returned to us sooner than expected, Commander Larka, Valdar rumbled, his voice resonating like an avalanche in the depths of a canyon. I assume your mission was educational. Larka nodded solemnly. Educational, yes. But not in the way we hoped. The humans are far more advanced than we realized. Their technology, their military readiness, it caught us by surprise. They were prepared to shoot us down without hesitation. The council was right to be cautious, but I fear we may have underestimated just how dangerous they truly are. Valdar's face darkened, though his stony features remained unreadable. Tell me everything. Larkar recounted the events of the mission, their descent to Earth, the brief contact with the humans, and the swift, aggressive response from their military. She detailed how the humans had detected the Draka almost immediately and the barrage of missiles that had forced their retreat. As she spoke, she could see Valdar's silence growing heavier, his patience thinning. When she finished, the ancient counselor remained quiet for a long time, his stone body unmoving, like a statue deep in thought. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. You should have heeded our warning, Larka, Valdar said, the disappointment in his voice clear. The humans are not like the others. They do not seek harmony or understanding. They are driven by fear, by ambition, and by a deep-seated need to dominate their surroundings. You've seen this firsthand. And now they know we exist. They will not forget. Larka lowered her head. She had failed not only in the mission, but in her duty to the Council's wisdom. I underestimated them. I thought we could understand them better through direct contact, but they are more unpredictable than we realized. Valdar's eyes glowed faintly. The humans are a threat not because of their technology, but because of their nature. They are fractured, yet united in their suspicion of the unknown. They destroy what they do not understand. And now, thanks to your mission, they have a reason to fear us. Larka clenched her mandibles. What should we do now? They will undoubtedly be preparing for another encounter. Earth is on high alert. The ancient counselor's voice grew grim. The council must convene. We have long debated the fate of humanity, but we can no longer afford to stand idly by. If they are allowed to develop unchecked, they will spread their chaos across the galaxy. We must decide whether to isolate them permanently or destroy them before they can do more harm. Larkov flinched at the finality of Valdar's words. The idea of destroying an entire species, no matter how dangerous, weighed heavily on her conscience. Is there no other way? Could we not try again, approach them differently? Perhaps with more caution, a more measured hand dash. Valdar cut her off with a raised hand, his voice a low rumble. You saw how they responded to your attempt at peaceful contact. They are not ready for diplomacy. They are a threat to the balance of the galaxy. You know this now. The Council will make its decision soon, but the galaxy cannot risk another failure. The transmission ended, and the room fell into silence. Larka sat back, staring at the empty space where Valdar's hologram had been. She knew what was coming, and the burden of it settled heavily on her shoulders. Back on Earth, Colonel Jacob Hayes sat in his office, reviewing the footage from the night's events for what felt like the 100th time. The alien ship, the strange woman who had appeared out of nowhere, and the military's desperate scramble to engage it all played back in his mind like a bad dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was real. The Horizon Initiative was buzzing with activity. Scientists were working around the clock, analyzing every scrap of data they had gathered from the encounter. Engineers were already reverse engineering the energy signatures detected from the alien craft, trying to understand their propulsion systems. The world had changed, and Hayes knew it. The aliens had come, and they had left, but they would return. Of that, he was certain. What do you think their next move is? Major Ross asked, standing at the edge of his desk, her face drawn with exhaustion. Hayes rubbed his temples, thinking hard. I don't know, but they know we're ready for them. We've proven that we're not just some backwater species they can toy with. If they come back, they'll be more careful or more aggressive. Ross sighed. And what about us? What's our next move? Hayes looked out the window, where the city skyline gleamed in the distance. Beyond it lay the rest of the world, a world that was still oblivious to what had truly happened in the forest. But that ignorance wouldn't last. Sooner or later, the truth would come out, and when it did, humanity would have to make a choice. We prepare, Hayes said finally. We know they're out there now. And we know they're watching. We can't wait for them to make the next move. We need to expand our capability: space defense, faster detection, and more firepower. If they come back, we need to be ready to show them that Earth won't be conquered. Ross nodded, but her expression was grim. And if they come back in peace? Hayes stared at her for a long moment, then turned his gaze back to the skyline. Let's hope they don't. The Council's decision. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with an energy unlike any other meeting in recent memory. The air itself seemed to hum with attention as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to decide the fate of Earth. Holographic projections of worlds, species, and cultures flashed across the room, civilizations that had worked together in harmony for millennia. And now, a single planet, an insignificant blue dot on the edge of the Milky Way, threatened to unravel that delicate balance. Valdar stood at the center of the chamber, the celestial orb pulsing softly beside him, its glow dimmed by the weight of the decision at hand. Counselors, Valdar began, his voice deep and measured. The humans have proven themselves to be both dangerous and unpredictable. They have already responded with violence to a peaceful encounter. They are on the verge of reaching into the stars, and when they do, they will spread their chaos across the galaxy. The question we must answer today is simple: do we allow this to happen, or do we act to preserve the balance? The chamber erupted into debate. Some, like Elitan, the sleek insectoid who had once defended humanity's potential, argued for isolation, cutting Earth off from the rest of the galaxy, ensuring that humans could never leave their homeworld. Others, more cautious, spoke of annihilation, arguing that humanity's aggression would eventually lead to conflict that could engulf the entire galaxy. Larka, watching from her position as an observer, felt a pang of guilt. Her actions had accelerated this decision, and now, billions of lives hung in the balance. Finally, Valdar raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. The time for debate is over, he said, his voice carrying the weight of finality. The Council will vote. The representatives cast their votes, and as the celestial orb absorbed their collective will, its glow intensified, filling the chamber with a soft, ominous light. The decision was made. The humans' reckoning. Back on Earth, the Horizon Initiative continued its work, unaware that far across the stars, their fate had just been sealed. Colonel Hayes stood on the balcony of the initiative's headquarters, staring up at the sky, his mind heavy with the weight of the unknown. And then, for just a moment, he thought he saw something, a flicker of light, far in the distance, like a star blinking out of existence. His instincts, honed from decades of military experience, told him what he didn't want to admit. They were coming back. And this time, it wouldn't be a peaceful visit.